Hello, this is See Eun from We Learn to Share, and welcome to lesson 1 of Comparative Linguistics course. Today in this lesson, we're going to look at how nouns behave and how they are categorized in different languages. So what is a noun? Well, a word can be categorized into different parts of speech, and they tell us about the role of the word in a sentence. And a noun is the name of an object or of a concept, of an action, or etc. So here we have the beginning sentence of Genesis. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Well, here the words beginning, God, heavens, and earth are nouns because they are the names of the thing or the concept or a person that they represent. So these are some of the different ways in which nouns can be categorized. So firstly, we have case. The case defines the grammatical function of a noun. So in the sentence, the man saw the woman's son, well, the word man is the subject who has performed the action of seeing. The word son is the object, the direct object who has received the action. The word woman is the possessor who possesses the son. And this tells us that the word man is in the nominative case, as it is the subject who performs. The word son is in the accusative case because it's the direct object of a verb, and the word woman is the genitive because it's the possessor of something. And the case can be represented in different ways. For example, it could be represented by affixes like prefix, suffix, or adpositions, like prepositions or postpositions, or like in the example we've just looked at, it could be represented by the word order. So we know that in this sentence, the word man is the subject because it comes before the verb. And we know that the word son is the object because it comes after the verb. So these are some of the basic cases that most languages distinguish. So the first three, we've already looked at them. And the last one, the dative case, is the indirect object. So it's kind of like the destination. So in the sentence, I sent a letter to him. I didn't send him, but I sent something to him. So the word letter is in the accusative, it's a direct object, whereas the word to him, or the phrase to him, is the indirect object, so it's in the dative case. And these are some of the more obscure and rare cases, but they're still very common. The ablative is the origin or the starting place. So if I say, I came from Italy, Italy is the ablative. Instrumental is when a noun is used as an instrument or the tool of an action. Like when I say I eat with a spoon, the spoon is the instrument with which I perform the action of eating, so it's in the instrumental case. Locative, well, represents the location of action. So when I say I live in Paris, the Paris is in locative because that's the location where the action of living happens. There are many more cases like illative, partitive, etc. And you could technically say that there are countlessly many cases. And among these, the ergative absolutive distinction, we might look at it in a future lesson because it's a very interesting concept. So inflection is one of the many ways in which case can be represented. An inflection is simply a modification of a word. So the word I in the nominative or the subject case changes to me in the oblique case. Or the word cat becomes cats in the plural number. Some inflections can have multiple grammatical functions. And this means that, for example, in Latin, we have the us ending, as in cactus, and it's the second declension nominative's singular ending. So it tells us both the case and the number. It tells us that it's in the nominative, but also that it's singular. And when an inflection has multiple grammatical functions, we call it a fusional inflection. Compared to this, let's look at the Turkish genitive ending in or un, depending on the vowel harmony. It only tells us about the case. It doesn't tell us about the gender, doesn't tell us about the number, etc. And in this case, it's called an agglutinative inflection. So this is the Latin second declension group, declension table, and declension just refers to noun inflection. And we've already looked at the nominative singular ending us. And what's important here is that if you compare the singular forms and the plural forms, they don't share any endings. Well, there are some occasional similar endings like the genitive singular and nominative plural, but that's just a coincidence. So here, for example, in the nominative singular, the us tells us both the number and the case, and in plural, the singular ending us is not present, but the long e ending tells us that it's the nominative and it's plural. So there's no separate plural endings, and the endings tell us both the case and the number, so it's fusional. And compared to that, here's the Turkish noun declension table, and except for one case, which is definite accusative, and it tells us both that the noun is definite and it's in the accusative case, so it's actually fusional. But other cases, it only tells us about the case, and we know that because if you compare the plural forms, they actually share the same endings as the singular forms. But in plural forms, the case markers are preceded by the plural ending. So here the number is represented by the plural ending alone, and the case is represented by the case endings alone. So they are agglutinative. And number is another way in which nouns can be categorized. And, well, obviously, numbers tell us about the number, like how many or how much of a thing there is. So the singular plural distinction is the most common distinction. And in this distinction, the unmarked, the default number of a noun is singular. So one single item. Like cats, it's a cat, it's one cat. Or lupo could either be singular ablative or singular dative, to a wolf or from a wolf. Or in here, in classical Greek, anthropoi means to a man, to a person. So it's all in singular, but in plural, the nouns changes due to inflection, and in English, the S ending denotes that the noun is in plural. And this tells us that there are more than one cat, or the ablative plural or dative plural lupis means two wolves or from wolves, and Greek anthropos shows us that this is for multiple people, not one person. And some languages, like classical Greek, have the dual number as well. And dual number refers to two things. So anthropoin would mean for two people or two people. And although in Greek it is not the case, some languages with the dual number, in these languages, the plural number would tell us that the thing is more than two instead of one, because when it's one more than one, it'd be represented by dual. But in classical Greek, the dual number isn't used that much, so plural still tells us that it's more than one. And there could be more numbers such as quantral that tells us that there are four things, or porcal that tells us that there are not many things. But those are really, really rare and barely seen. The singulative collective distinction is the opposite of the singular plural distinction. Well, in this as far as I know, there is no language that that has the singulative collective distinction alone. So this could be supplementary to the singular plural distinction. So a language might have the singular plural distinction, but for some words, it might have singulative collective distinction. And in this distinction, the multiple is the default number. So here, in Welsh, although Welsh has a singular plural distinction, in words like moch, the default is pigs. So it tells us that there are more than one pigs, multiple pigs. But if you add the singulative ending, mochen, it becomes a pig, a single pig. So the single number is marked, whereas the multiple number is unmarked, opposite to the singular plural distinction. And don't confuse the collective number with collective noun. So collective number here, see, is the unmarked multiple number that's bigger than one usually. But the collective noun refers to a noun that refers to a group of things in a collective sense. So let's look at how Mari denotes numbers. So actually, most of the nouns in Mari don't have a separate plural ending. So when you say rakau, it could both mean a singular tree or multiple trees. So in order to distinguish whether a word is plural or not, you would need the preceding article or the possessive pronoun or the determinative to tell whether it's plural or not. So when you use the definite article, te rako would mean the tree in singular, whereas nga rako would mean the trees in plural. Or if you use the possessive pronoun like my, like tokurako would mean my tree, but okurako without the t in the beginning would mean my trees. But still, some nouns do have distinct plural forms, such as the word man, tangata, becomes tangata with a long vowel, men. And also the word woman, wahine, becomes wahine, again with the long vowel, women. Although not shown here, the word for a boy or a child, tamaiti, becomes tamariki in plural. And Indonesian, another Austronesian language, as well as Mari, uses reduplication to mark plural. And reduplication is the repetition of certain parts or even the whole of the word. And so, for example, the word tree, pohon, in default means singular. But in order to make it plural, you have to reduplicate, so you have to repeat the whole word. So pohon, trees. Or another example is orang, person, becoming orang-orang. But there are some words that are in default reduplicated, or uses different plural prefixes. Noun class is it's one of the biggest categories in which you can classify nouns, and what it does is it just categorizes nouns according to different criteria, and these criteria might, well, mostly different from language to language. So here we have Swahili as an example, and in Swahili there are 18 different noun classes, and they're all marked with an inseparable prefix. So you can't say a noun without the prefix. And here's a table of the said 18 noun classes from Wikipedia. And this tells us that, for example, the class 3 nouns are plants in singular. The class 5 nouns are fruits in singular, or the class 8 nouns are things in plural. And gender, well, grammatical gender is one of many noun classes. So it's one of the criteria in which you can divide nouns into different categories. And grammatical gender does not always make sense because it can be derived from the formation of the word, how the word is formed or how the word looks like, not the meaning. So for example, the French abstract suffix ite, which is like itty in English, well, the suffix itself is feminine. And in French, the gender of a combined word is defined by the last morpheme. So the word masculinity, masculinité, would also be feminine because the last morpheme is the feminine abstract suffix. Even though the word masculinity literally means the quality of being masculine. So let's look at how in the European languages distinguish genders. So in Proto-Indo-European, we have two possibilities. It either had masculine, feminine, neuter distinction from the beginning, or just masculine, feminine distinction. Or another possibility is that it actually originally had animate, inanimate distinction, which we're going to look at later on. Then it developed into masculine, feminine, neuter distinction. And the feminine ending, well, becomes just a R in Latin. And in Greek, it becomes long R, then it changes to air in most cases in Attic Greek and in further descendants of, or later descendants of Greek, like modern Greek or Byzantine Greeks. So the word here we have is the abstract feminine derivative of the stem, meaning to flee, to run away. And it becomes fuga, which means exile in Latin. And it becomes puger with the long air, which means the same in Greek. And this actually shows a crucial feature of the feminine gender in PIE, or the Indo-European languages, is that it may be the reason, or it could be the result. The feminine, the abstract suffix, which creates abstract nouns from adjectives or verbs, like as shown in here, actually has the feminine ending. And this is why in daughter languages like Greek or French, Spanish, many of the abstract nouns are all in feminine. And again, the masculine ending, well, is os, and a nominative singular, and it becomes the familiar us ending in Latin, and os in Greek, like in the word logos. And the neuter ending, which is becomes in Latin, like datum, plural, the singular of data, or on, as in criterion in Greek. So animacy is another way of classifying nouns, and it classifies noun according to how alive, how animate it is. And as shown in the example we've seen just before, and the neuter ending in PIE, it actually is identical to the accusative ending of the masculine declension. And this might, well, tell us that PIE had originally had the animate-inanimate distinction, or in that inanimate nouns cannot be the subject, therefore it has the accusative ending even in the nominative case. But that's another story that we're going to discuss in future lessons, especially lessons about Indo-European languages. And for now, let's look at the Fox language, which is one of the Native American languages. And in Fox, well, the animate nouns all end in A. Inanimate nouns ends with an I. So the word fish, which is animate, is nemetha with the A, whereas the word water is nepi with the I ending. And these endings are inherited from Proto-Algonquian. And Fox is one of the few examples amongst the descendants, the daughter languages of Proto-Algonquian, in which both the animate and inanimate endings survived and are present still. And now the last category we are going to look at is alienability. And alienability is a type of possession. So inalienable possession is a possession that is obligatory and that is inseparable, like the possession of body parts. Me possessing my arm is obligatory and it's inseparable, unless there is like an accident. Or kin terms like mother, father, brother, those are also inalienable. And on the contrary, alienable possession are non-obligatory, like things that I own, or people I own if it were a feudal society. So again, Mari. Well, in Mari, nouns are divided into two categories, A category and O category. And the A category, well, these two categories decide which possessive pronouns you have to use in front of a noun. So the A category is the alienable possession. So when you say my wife, or literally my woman, as in many other languages, you would use the possessive pronoun daku with the long R instead of doku, because this is the word wahine is an A category. So you would say daku wahine, my wife. Also, when you say your dogs, and there are pets, you would say au guri. And here you see that the plural is not represented in the nouns itself, the guri itself, but it's actually represented by the lack of the initial T in the possessive pronoun. And since this is an alienable possession, this means that the dogs that I'm referring to are pets. And actually, for animals like horse, if you use the A category possessive pronoun with horse and say my horse, that would mean that the horse is my pet. But if you use the O category with the word horse and say my horse, that would mean that the horse is kind of like a vehicle or like a transportation, because transportations belong to O category in Mari. So the O category is the inalienable possession. For example, name, as in Dona Ingwa, his name, or Doku Ingwa, my name. And Doku Fare, my house. Well, this house, the word house also belongs to the O category, although a house is something that I possess. And that is because large immovable man-made objects in Mari belong to O category. And it kind of makes sense if you think about the fact that large immovable man-made objects can't be carried around by a person. So it belongs to the inalienable possession group. And inalienability is actually marked in some Romance languages as well. So in French, or in other Romance languages like Italian or Spanish, the inalienable possession doesn't take the possessive pronoun, but it takes the definite article. So whereas in English you would say, I broke my arm with the possessive pronoun my, in French you wouldn't say je me suis cassé mon bras, but you say je me suis cassé le bras. I broke the arm, because the possession of the arm that I just broke is inalienable. It's inalienable. Whereas when you say I lost my book, the possession of the book is alienable. So you would use the possessive pronoun mon. So you say j'ai perdu mon livre. And you could use the definite article j'ai perdu le livre, but that would mean something different. I lost the book that I have referred to before. And that is it for today. And in the next lesson, which is lesson 1 of classical Greek, course, we are going to look at noun morphology, nominal morphology in classical Greek, and we are going to apply the stuff that we've just learned in this lesson. And the lesson after that, we're going to look at verbal morphology, how verbs behave in different languages. So thank you for watching, and see you next time.